All right, so welcome back to the channel. This is the Ian West Network, and today we're just going to talk about another topic. If you haven't heard, basically it's the issue going on with Blizzard, Activision, or Activision Blizzard. They're actually being sued by the state of California. And before we even start this article, let me just let you know that this is from Bloomsburg Law. So this is where I'm getting my information from. And of course, I'm just going to just give my 2 cents about this, especially when it comes to that company culture. Some places are more toxic than others. And I do see comments of like things where on certain people's pages, like Dreamcast Guy covered this, Linus Tech covered this, and well, he has that secondary channel. Excuse me. And I figured, there were people on there saying only 10% is true and 90% is made up. And typically people that say that are ones that never had to actually work in a toxic environment. It's the internet. And we have it's a place where people can just spew their poison no matter what a person says. I'm not saying believe everyone. Obviously, you need to due process before everything happens. But when this comes to a big organization that has more than enough money to pay lawyers and pay people off and, ABCD, sometimes these allegations are true, especially when it's enough of it to go around. All right, so anyway, just dive into this. We're going to look at this article real fast, and then we're going to talk about, again, how the office can be. So they're talking about frat boy, culture, right? Now keep in mind, this is the company for anyone that doesn't know who Activision Blizzard is. I'm guessing they work on the Call of Duty series. You do see Activision, kind of. I'm not sure if they're part of that same department or not, but I know they did work on Warcraft and Diablo, like I said. Now these aren't. I was never a huge Diablo fan. I played Part 3, but that's about it. Warcraft, never played it, so they're not getting money from me. But anyway, it was saying that they were suggested they were what's the word I'm looking for here? Well, I'll just read it. It said they fostered a frat boy culture, which female employees are subjected to constant sexual harassment, unequal pay, and retaliation. Now, we're just going to break down each part. Now, for this part, we're talking about constant sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is something that happens a lot in the workforce. Particularly where I work, you see, sexual harassment all the time. It's typically, it also goes the opposite way where women sexually harass men. It's just that it's not reported as much, so it sounds uncommon, but in reality, it's actually just as common as men sexually harassing women, especially people of power or in a higher position. They understand that you need your job. You can't just find another programming gig that fast. This might be your entire everything. You could be building a home, you could be doing renovations, whatever it is. And when people typically have money held over you or your job or your pay, some people, again, are just corrupt and they do what they do to get what they want. So sexual harassment can stem from, I don't know if it's physical touching in this place, but, as we get through the article, we'll talk about it. So unequal pay, that's not surprising, especially since they're talking about female employees. Um, that's a different subject to kind of touch on because again, we don't know, we don't have any documents necessarily that actually shows um, the pay inequality, like how deep it is. Because typically men do get paid more money than women, given the fact that women typically nurture children, they stay at home, the sick leaves, amongst other things, and that does play a factor into why men do get paid more. I mean, understand that you may not like it, but that is facts. Again, I'm definitely not going with this article, but I'm just giving a reason as we break it down. Um, Retaliation, I guess we'll get into that one. I guess if you say no, you turn a person down. If they have the power to mess with your pay, your hours, uh, obviously that could put someone in a position where you're working again in a toxic environment where you can hate your job. It does affect your work. It affects your psyche. It affects what happens to you when you get home. If you don't have that support system, this could make or break a person. It also says that they were discriminated against female employees in terms of conditions of employment, including compensation, okay, assignment, promotion, and termination. Company leaders consistently failed to take steps to prevent discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. All right, so when they say company leaders, I'm just going to be completely blunt. There's no such thing as a company leader. Now, typically there is a person that's higher up above others, HR or certain things that are supposed to handle these type of issues. but typically the people in those same positions are as corrupt as the people that are doing the harassing in the first place. For me personally, when I work, well, I still do work in office right now, but personally, when I deal with people or I see what happens, typically with the higher ups, they don't know what actually happens on the ground level. They only receive an email here and there, and sometimes the email is sent, sometimes it's not, especially depending on the type of supervisor that you have, or the type of company that you work for, or who knows who. People don't say this that often, but in companies, people typically have cliques, just like high school or anything else, where certain people can get promoted if they know a particular person, even if they don't. Obviously, you still have to work hard depending on the job that you do. I'm not going to take work away from someone else, but personal relationships do help with promotions. As for compensation, what you see here, some people, not everyone in the office gets paid the same amount. Let's be clear. Like if you're working a state job, you're hired at entry level or however it's called, or if you're already kind of grandfathered in, and I know I'm using the wrong term for that, but you're grandfathered in seasoned, you can take your pension or whatever it is and your sick days and things with you. But for companies like this, first of all, I don't know what kind of healthcare system they even have, let alone do they even have unions. So typically you can hire someone at a particular price. I'm just going to throw a number out there. I don't know what these employees make. Let's say they make 100K. They might hire someone else at 85, 90, lower than what the typical rate is, simply because they feel as if they can get over on a person. That's just human nature, where people try to take advantage of others, especially when it comes to money. Like this isn't even the money that's going in some of these people's pockets, like some of their employers, like supervisors and whatnot. But when you're in that company culture, which is a real thing, a lot of times it's extremely toxic when you find out more about it, and people will do anything to keep their job, even if it means demeaning other people or allowing or just turning a blind eye to what happens. And that's with every employment, whether it's state, federal, McDonald's, food, customer service. It's kind of everywhere when we talk about that type of subject. But assignment, I don't know about this one, but if I had to guess, I'm guessing certain assignments that they're pushing more. This could be anything from pushing more work onto people because there's crunch at these companies. And typically, again, in the state, there's a situation where you'll have a couple clerks, but one is doing a particular job, right? That normally is made for four people, and they'll put that person under crunch. They'll push that work onto them. They'll add more stress to them. They're not even answering their phone calls when it's necessary. They give you extensions, but they're never actually there to handle it. It's really it could be really really hectic, and I can't even imagine what some of these people are going through. Like as soon as I read some of these terms, um, harassment, discrimination, that happens at work. Like people think that that's not a thing, and I understand why they don't. And the only reason I say I understand why they don't is because we live in a time where um, we can basically grow up never hearing about certain music artists. To give you an example, you can grow up never hearing about certain communities, never know about certain races of people, never know about certain languages that are made because we're living in this bubble, right? And so when you're living in a bubble like this, especially a workplace bubble, when it comes to discrimination, most people don't even know what discrimination is. Like we live in a time where, they say you disrespect the flag, the whole what's the guy's name, Kaepernick situation. When it was plain as day, he said to the people that he's protesting A, B, C, D. They took it the way that they want. So when it comes to obviously that's not a good example of discrimination, but when it comes to discrimination, discriminatory practices, each person has their idea of what is acceptable and what isn't. The problem is that it doesn't fall in between company guidelines. But if the company people that are supposed to be defending the company guidelines are the higher ups that are doing the discrimination, which a lot of times that's how it happens, that's how it starts, and those cliques form, then it's like, remember, people, HR isn't for people. HR is really for the company to make up for the shortcomings of what they're doing and cover up and smooth things over. It's not for the employee. So before you go run into HR and complain in and send emails, which I'm sure these people did, and you do need a paper trail, obviously, because you can't have a type of lawsuit or certain things going on if you didn't take the proper, precautions and steps to actually rectify the situation. As horrible as it sounds, you still got to go through steps, especially in the corporate environment. So I always suggest always have your emails, if it's a company email or if it's a personal one, however whatever options they give you, make sure to have a trail so you can still have that email in case you're terminated. Unjustful termination, which is the next one, which happens. Like there's people, oh, I don't like the opinion, I don't like how they are, I don't like their culture, certain things, and they're able to unjustly I'm sorry, terminate you, assuming you don't do a particular job a particular way. And some companies do that. That's why job security is a good thing. Like I do have a union at my job. Not that that covers everything because it doesn't. It's not foolproof. And in truth, a lot of times it can backfire unions, especially when it comes to people that have seniority that aren't qualified for the job, but they're able to get it simply because they've been there longer than you. So it does definitely backfire. But yeah, discrimination happens practically with any job. Like you don't know who you're working next to, left or right. That's why there's typically harassment classes and different things there. So even if a person is culturally insensitive, whatever it is, they should still know how to talk to other people. But again, you can't teach customer service. It's something that you learn on your own through experience. You can teach the job, but you can't teach customer service. And I totally understand when they say some of these people definitely are taking advantage of their employees, probably having them do extra work, crunch time, sexual harassment allegations, touching. I'm sure that happens. I'm sure it's in innuendos of different things. It happens. So we're going to jump up to this one. The female employees make up about 20% of Activision workforce. They're subjected to pervasive frat boy workplace culture, including cube crawls. I never heard of that, but let's see what it is. In which male employees drink with a copious, I don't know what it says, amounts of alcohol as they crawl their way through various cubicles in the office and often engage in inappropriate behavior toward female employees. All right, so if the, now this part, wow, this part right here, I can honestly say that that sounds really weird and unbelievable. But again, alcohol, people do drink at work. There were times where you could smell the alcohol of some of the employees when they came through the door. Like I could smell the Jack Daniels mixed with God knows what else. And I knew that they didn't work for the department I was with because I was actually a contract. I'm contracted. So I don't work for those departments directly. So I don't have the emails that said, hey, your employee's intoxicated. They're aware and they know each other and they're aware of what they're doing to their employees because they're, I guess you call it minority. Is that what you call it? Minority group, 80% men, I guess. On top of that, you got to look at the type of men that are there. So these probably aren't the type of men that are popular with women. They might be, they might not, or they might have money. They might think that money could do anything. They talk to guys. Guys have guy talk. It happens. But it's when if they're crawling through cubicles, I guess probably what are they skirt chasing? Like this is really super creepy. But again, there are some extremely cringy people in the world because I mean, some people pay for pornography. So yeah, I could believe that they engage in this type of behavior. And typically, I'm curious about how long has this been happening because even though the lawsuit's coming about, this can't be something that just happened overnight. It probably did this to countless employees. Anyway, let's move forward. The agency alleges male employees play video games during the workday while delegating responsibilities to female employees. That's definitely possible. Engage in sexual banter and joke openly about rape, amongst other things. All right, so this is a lot to unpack right here. With this particular part, it looks like they're saying, and again, I'm going to just spitball here. Delegating responsibilities is what a lot of jobs do, where you have a supervisor that understands what they're supposed to be doing. There's people underneath that supervisor to a particular role, and especially if you're at a game company. Again, I don't know all the roles they do, but just programming, there's different things. I'm assuming coding's in that too, and all just everything. They're probably passing on responsibilities to the female employees. They don't want to do their job. They could be higher up for all we know, or they could be on the same level of employees, and they're just the supervisor doesn't care because it's impossible for these things to happen without the supervisor knowing. Let's be completely clear on this. It's impossible for someone to pass work on to someone else. A complaint being made and the supervisor not knowing anything about this. That's impossible. And if anyone that says it isn't, then you work for an incompetent worker or you're incompetent yourself as a supervisor that you're not reading your emails and certain things like this. It's impossible to sit here and act like there wasn't an email sent. Someone had to have sent something. And if they didn't, I'm not victim blaming, but you have to do your due diligence and make sure that you talk about these things and send it in emails and name the person that did the allegation and all that stuff. Again, a paper trail is very, very important. What I notice is a lot of people don't talk about what happens, and it's like, listen, if you can live through it, you can talk about it, especially if it can get rid of that person. Anyway, engage in sexual banter. That's probably sexual innuendos, whistling, catcalling, all the type of stuff. Talk about what you would do to that person when they walk past, and joke openly about rape. So joking openly about rape isn't I I've heard like crazy. Nah, they're probably talking about that's my voice right there. They're probably talking about just sexual innuendos where, or it could be open about gripping her up, throwing her in the closet, doing this. I don't know. But if we're talking office jargon, it sounds like they're openly talking about the people that they'll have sex with, regardless of if the person want to have sex with them. And technically, that's grounds for rape when you really think about it, because you can talk to someone else about who you're interested in, and It sounds like they have to be talking open. It says openly, so that means that they're literally talking openly in groups. Probably it has to be groups or someone else about a particular coworker that they want to have sex with. And if they say no, I guess rape. I don't know. I'm not adding to it, but that's messed up any way you look at it. Female employees being held back for promotion. Um, let's see, promotions because of the possibility it might become pregnant. Okay, now that does happen a lot in the workplace where, like I said, typically men are, known for working ridiculously long hours, uh, 60 hours a week, if not more work weeks, while women typically, because of their pregnancy, biological clock, other things, this is used a lot in offices. Well, if you're protected and you could take that time off, that's one thing, especially from working from home if it's possible. That's why I say you should always have a computer, something updated so you can work from home so it doesn't hinder your career itself because you can still work, especially in front of a computer. It's not an excuse. If you're pregnant and you take time off, whatever it is, work. So that computer if you have to, see if your job offers remote, keep up because you can still get that promotion. But again, realistically, the same way, this is a different topic, but the same way marriage is a deal breaker for men because there's no actual financial or any benefit whatsoever, right? The same way this could be detrimental to women, where they have the skills and the qualities, the degrees, the time in for the promotion, but because they could become pregnant, it's like they don't want to give that person promotion, which technically that's discrimination. No matter how you look at it, there's no nice way to say it. They're discriminating against their employees. That's also part of what they're talking about above, and I guess we're just kind of diving into it now. Anyway, being criticized for leaving to pick up their children. There you go, from daycare. This is the part where I talk about women typically. Let's finish reading this real quick before we do that. To pick up the children from daycare and being kicked out of lactation rooms so male colleagues could use the room for meetings. The complaint says, I'm sorry. So, if there's a specified room for, I guess, lactation for women that are breastfeeding, um, I would assume that there's something in the policy or show something in a contract or however your workplace is that this is set up specifically for this reason. Because if it isn't, and it's just he say she say, I guess they got to prove that. But if it's actually detailed that this is the case, that these rooms are specified for this exact reason, yeah, I mean that's pretty messed up. But on the other hand, again, when company policy is a piece of paper, what happens in real life is always different. So, again, if there's HR, there's different departments, no one's upkeeping their own rules and regulations. Let this happen to the opposite sex, and then boom, we got a problem. But again, with a place with 80% men, assuming that these allegations are true, because remember, this isn't proven yet. I guess if there's video evidence, let me not say that. But if it's not proven yet, I guess they're probably going to have a hard time with some of these things being said. But a lot of this, like the only thing that was out of a little far fetched to me was the cube crawls. I just figured it was just regular sexual harassment, innuendos, things like that, groping, yada yada, the typical harassment that you see in every uh, what is it called? Those promotional videos to tell you what not to do. I'm sure it's worse than that too. Probably people saying, "Hey, you can move up in the company. I'll pay you more if you do this." It happens. This is the Harvey Weinsteins of the world, so they're out there. So, all right, let's move forward. Um, Female employees working for the World of Warcraft team noted that male employees and supervisors would hit on them, make derogatory comments about rape, and otherwise engage in demeanor behavior. And I just talked about this, and this is what the stuff I'm talking about when it comes to sexual banter and joke openly about rape. So what they're talking about again, and it's a bunch of dudes that probably don't get any. To be honest, if we're being real here, the programmers, they're not the coolest guys in the world. Um, they're hitting on the few employees that's here. Some people typically tend to feel more comfortable doing these type of things when they're in a company setting with other people that they identify with, right? So if you flock together, you see company culture, you're trying to fit in, typically people do this. And with these derogatory comments come the rate, probably when they turn them down. And this is something that could be happening multiple times out of the day, if not every day. And it's actually pretty messed up because again, like there's a lot of like people assume that when you get a degree and work a particular job that everything is better because you make more money. And people that think that are fools because the most toxic places are typically the jobs that are higher up. This is where the Trumpers, the Bideners, this is where conservatives, this is where all that world really comes into fruition. Because there's jobs that will tell you, hey, we need to vote this guy so that we can get these taxes, we can do this, we can do that. And it's like, I'm not doing anything for you. You're the company. I don't own any stock or stake in this company. I'm here to work, collect my check, go home. And that's how it should be, unless there's an open position and you're trying to move up. But a lot of jobs have that toxic company, family, fake culture where when something happens to them and it's about you, they turn on you. But if it's against someone else and they want you to be like, oh, no, this isn't true. Janice acts this way. That's what they're willing to do. They're willing to lie to save their own asses just to be able to keep their jobs. A lot of jobs like that where they do underhanded tactics. Metro by T-Mobile is one of them, and I love that company. But it's not the company itself. It's the private owners will add a $10 insurance package, which includes insurance and other features that you didn't ask for, and they won't even tell you. It'll just be incorporated in the final price. So unless you're looking at like, what does this cost? What is this? What is that? Break it down. They're doing that to people currently. They actually did that to me, and I'm like, all right, well, I bought this phone for review purposes, so that's okay. I'm not going to use the plan anyway. I'll just let it run out in a month. But companies do underhanded things. Workers that are desperate to keep their jobs do underhanded things. And if they can post up with the right people, this is where this toxic culture comes from. And then things like this run rampant, as you can see. Anyway, the suit also points to a female activision employee that took her own life while on a company trip with her male supervisor. All right, so she was subjected to intense sexual harassment prior to her death, including having nude photos passed around at a company holiday party, the complaint said. Again, Jeffrey Epstein Island, a guy like that with that amount of money that can pay a grown woman to do ABCD is into certain things. So it's not far-fetched to believe that this is possible. I don't know how they got the nudes. It could have been a situation where this person was in a relationship. Oh, a company trip with her male supervisor. I don't know if she was in a relationship or a sexual relationship, whatever, with the supervisor. Or she could have been dating, or she could have sent the pictures. We don't know. The guy could have got her pictures out of the phone. We don't know how they got the pictures. Regardless, if the pictures are being spread around the company, which this is one of the reasons why, guess what, guys? You shouldn't talk to people at your company. That's why they have these policies where you can't date people in the same company, primarily to stop situations like this. But people still do it anyway. So let's say this person did have a sexual relationship. Let's say they didn't, as a matter of fact. Give them the benefit of the doubt that they didn't. The problem with that is these guys are acting like children, passing around nude pictures, doing this, doing that, probably talking about this person. Let's go back up here. We're the part. This deals with the discrimination, the harassment, the retaliation. The retaliation could be this person, this young lady that passed. Hopefully her family's okay, because it seems, I guess, fairly recent. This is a situation where she could have got advances, said no. Multiple persons said no to her, and guess what? Here we are. That's when harassment starts. And everyone's psyche and mental is entirely different. And some people can handle these things, some people can't. And the thing about it is you shouldn't have to handle these things because these guys obviously are in the wrong, especially if this is proven. To be honest, if this is proven, I don't know what kind of charge they can give them, but some jail time should be. Like, I don't see them getting out of this unscathed, Blizzard. I see them paying a lot of money for damages. I see them throwing certain employees under the bus because employees are replaceable, especially when it comes to I don't know if this is $1 billion company or $1 trillion, but they're making a lot of money from I guess some of their games. Again, I don't play anything outside of the Call of Duty, and I guess they make that. I don't know if it's the same department, but I don't play any Blizzard games, so no harm, no foul on my end. Anyway, what do we have here? All right, so right here we're going to talk about, and yeah, and there's an unlawful death. And sorry, let me talk about that. And so you have screwed up people in the head, and this is why social media is a problem. To give everybody a voice, because everybody doesn't deserve a voice. I don't want to hear freedom of amendment nonsense, because at the end of the day, you have psychopaths that are okay with people dying and saying in this situation, you know what, that person shouldn't have did what they did. It's similar to that young lady who her father was killed by the boyfriend. It's like that girl has to live with the fact that she got her father killed. It is her fault, 100%. And at the end of the day, there's comments in the bottom talking about certain things about this person. Listen, she feels it more than anyone else, I'm sure. Now, if she goes online and starts attacking people and certain things that act like it's not a big deal, roast her to hell. That's what I say. But until that happens, like, give a person time to grieve. Like, the person lost their father. Anyway, in this situation, this person lost their family, and now they're trying to give, the typical pre-written copy and paste response. So we value diversity and strive to foster a workplace that offers inclusivity for everyone. I got that word. There is no place in our community, I'm sorry, company or industry, or any industry, for that matter, for sexual misconduct or harassment of any kind. Absolute lie. That's typically the spokesperson BS that they always give when something happens for damage control. A spokesperson for Activision Blizzard said in a statement, well, that's what they said, we take every allegation seriously and investigate all claims in case related to misconduct. Action was taken to address the issue. Now, for anyone that says that this is bogus or only 10% of this is true, keep in mind that someone committed suicide over this. You don't commit suicide because someone says, "Hey, you're pretty. I want to ask you out." You commit suicide if you're facing constant harassment, stress at work. Someone saying you could lose your job if you don't do A, B, C, D. For all we know, there was sexual favors that was happening, and there was nothing the person could do about it. It's not as simple as just leave your life, leave your degree, leave everything, and find a new job. Only dumb people talk that way. Like, if you have bills to pay, you're not going to become homeless after what you work for. Though there is a limit to what amount of abuse you should be taking. That's a different story. Like, if you're going through this, I don't care if it's against company policy, and I'm recording the conversations I have with these people. And then guess what? They're going to hear your voice. They're going to identify who you are, and regardless of if this person leaves the company or not, you won't be employable again. And listen, the ends to a means. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do to protect yourself. All right, so I guess what it looks like here is they're asking for compensatory. I think I said it right. Damages, punitive damages, unpaid wages, injunctive relief, declaratory relief, equitable relief, prejudgment, interest, attorney's fees, costs. Okay. I'm not going to read this part. I don't really care about that. Employment discrimination because of sex, retaliation, failure to prevent discrimination and harassment, unequal pay. That's all HR right there. Like, you could tell they did not care what was happening at this place as long as they push games out and just making money. So I doubt money is going to be an issue with this company, especially what they're worth. But I did hear that I know on Linus Tech, if you follow that channel, they were talking about how, what a podcast version of it, where I guess between now and the pandemic and now, correction, that they lost like 30% of their revenue from certain games and whatnot. It dropped, probably because the quality of the stuff that they're pushing out is absolutely horrible. But anyhow, what do we have here? All right, goodness. So this is the actual, what we call this, the actual complaint. You know what? I am going to do this. Yeah, I'm not going to go through this. I'm not going to go through this on the simple fact that I pretty much talked about what happened, and I guess there's no real reason to really show that complaint, even though it is public knowledge right now. So anyway, long story short, um, office culture is toxic. I know that we work different jobs and People feel certain jobs of a certain price is demeaning, which I feel as if you work, you work, do what you can, take care of your family, do it legally, you'll be fine. I still commend a person that will work a minimal job and try to get the degree, or just work a job and just try to move up in a company, or just get a certification, start a company, their own. Do what you got to do. It's the people that don't want to do it, selling drugs and doing certain questionable things, activities that I question. But again, harassment, sexual harassment, fair employment, none of that is really something that most of these jobs have. Most jobs have these problems. Small, some large. Some nip it in the butt right away and say we're not dealing with this. Those are the smart companies. Then you have places like Activision Blizzard where a lot of the employees don't have rights. They don't have a union. They aren't able to speak up. They don't have a support system in their company where they can talk about these issues without being outed as the whistleblower. And this is what probably happens in these companies where they find out they're harassed even more. They're harassing them intoxicated. They don't care. They might have a deadline to do a job, it's finished, and guess what? Now they want to harass the girl. They find it funny. And again, just because you're a certain age or you have a certain job doesn't mean mentally you're mature. That happens. So what I will say is I'm definitely going to follow this case, especially when we find out. It's probably going to be a while before we find out a verdict. But this will be the only video that I really touch on this until we find out everything that happened and what's proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Because right now it is he say, she say. I'm not going to go crazy jumping into that. But I will say that hopefully that family finds, I think the word solace, or just, their daughter died from harassment from a job. I don't know if she had a suicide note or whatever it is, but I don't know if they're just saying it's from this job. But the fact that they dived into what's going on about the company trip and ABCD and all that, everything in this article, the types of harassment things that happen, they pretty much broke down. I guess they'll just need definitive proof about what's going on. That's why I always say, people, when you get a job, it's nothing but a stupid job. You can go anywhere else. You can make more money anywhere else. You can make less money anywhere else, and you can still have peace of mind. Work a job that gives you peace of mind. The dollar amount isn't everything, because the dollar will kill you. The journey will kill you. You have to know when to throw in the towel. You have to know when to just be like, listen, if I'm going to go through with this case, if I want to do this, if I want to do that, I got to be thorough with it. I got to take notes. I got to copy down things people say. I got to have recordings about what Jim said in the office, this and that. I don't care if it's illegal. Guess what? This is illegal, and they're probably going to get away with some of this. Just pay a little hefty fine and then walk away like nothing happened. And they'll make that milk money right back when they release another DLC for Warcraft or whatever game they're making. It's Crash 5. I don't know. Crash 5 Ultimate Deluxe Edition. They come up with everything. So anyway, that is the video. And, like I said, hopefully they get to the bottom of this and this changes. I doubt it will, but I definitely hope it does.